Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It's Ricky Ventures and Marlon Madden. We're back with you for another episode of the Success Journey Show. Marlon, what's good, bro? How you doing, man?
Man, everyone should know by now, we do our show first, then we do our intro after the show. Pumped up like we always are, but tonight it was great talking to a like-minded person, not just a like-minded person, but brought new aspects and new revelation and kind of have you open your mind to different things. And you guys, this is going to be a great show. Have your note-taking gear. That's what we call the military. Have your note-taking gear so that when you hear some of these things, you could stop, check it out, come back. And if this show has been any kind of edification, brought you any kind of edification, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, guys, it was exciting. I don't know why. I don't know when we trying to start switching it up and doing, the intro after the podcast. But it definitely helpful for us because one, we jump right into it. We do this at night, right? And you see behind me, those lights are off and everything. And this is not for the faint at heart. It takes sacrifice, and we do this because of you, right? We do it because we know there's someone out there listening that is on a journey and just needs some help. And there've been plenty of times where Marlon and I have been on our journeys, and you just don't really have someone to really reach out to about particular things, right? And just us being able to share information with you that you can use and that you can apply every single day to your businesses, to your families, to your life. That's why we do this. Our love for this, and with that, man, we are in the process of writing a book.
Yes, sir.
I'm a true believer of putting it out there to hold for accountability aspects of it as well. So we're in the process of writing a book together. This book is going to talk about our journey, and we're excited to share some things that we probably haven't even shared in our podcast. We haven't even shared live before. And you guys will get to hear it firsthand. So, we'll keep you posted as to the progress of this book, but hold us accountable, and we're gonna bring this to you guys. Bring it to you guys. But yeah, we are going to jump right into this episode, like Marlon said. You're in for a treat. You are in for a treat. This is beyond just a story. This is strategy. Things that you can take and apply right now. So hang tight as we welcome Amy Anderson to the show.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? Man, we are here. We're back at our favorite segment of the show where we bring on a guest, someone from around the world, right? To come and sit down with us and just share their story. And today we are honored to have Amy Anderson come and just share her story and her journey with us today. Amy, welcome to the Success Journey Show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Oh, man, it's an honor. Man, I mean, guys, we're in the green room, and man, we say this selfishly every week. We love this show, Marlon and I. If no one else listens, we love it because it gives us the opportunity to meet phenomenal people, make connections where we would never even thought we would ever make connections, and build those long-lasting relationships. And I know after you listen to this podcast, you too are going to be like, wow, man, I really need to get in contact with Amy. So stay tuned for the rest of the podcast so you can hear exactly how you can get connected with her. All right. But for right now, let's just jump in. Amy, why don't you give a little introduction, share with our listeners and travelers from all around the world, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am the CEO and co-CEO actually of a company called Wild Coffee Marketing. And unlike the name, we actually don't market coffee. It's named after a plant that was growing outside my window when I was developing my business plan 6 or 7 years ago. And that thing was growing in Miami. It had to be cut back with a machete and had these shiny leaves and these beautiful berries on it. And I was thinking, what a great sort of metaphor for a company that I'm trying to grow as a consultant, trying to grow the companies of others. And so we named it Wild Coffee and incorporated 5 years ago. And we have 20 employees in 7 states. So we've always been a distributed firm. And we work with national brands, some well-funded startups, but developing their marketing plans and their marketing teams. So we actually are an outsourced CMO model, which means that we are the CMOs for multiple companies at the same time. We do fractional teams, right? Fractional CMOs, fractional marketing teams. So I've been in the business for 30 years, and I can't believe that I actually say that now, but I will admit it. It's been 30 years.
She started when she was 5.
I did. I did.
Prodigy.
Yeah.
I went to Chapel Hill for 3 months, finished when I was 5.
Exactly.
But I started in the marketing business. I was at 17 magazine in New York City, and I loved the magazine business, but I would see them and say, we have these circulation numbers and readers per copy and total circulation, but are these ads working? And then I ended up being the head of broadcast at Calvin Klein Cosmetics. So remember Obsession, CK1, CKB.
Yep.
So I worked with the fragrances and managed
behind that. Wow.
Yeah. I remember when the NFL was launched on Fox, I went to the upfronts. And Terry Bradshaw was there. So we bought a lot of TV broadcast over the years. And that made more sense to me. Yeah, a lot of money in that. But you also had Nielsen ratings. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe we know a little bit more about these ads working. And then to completely date myself, the internet came out in the mid 90s. Calvin wanted to put everything on video. And I'm thinking, we're still dialing up on AOL modems here, guys. Like, I don't know how you think he was ready to stream in the 90s. Yes. And then I ended up going to sort of a full pure.com play, and I went to the NewYorkTimes.com. So I was part of the original group that put the paper on the internet in the mid 90s. It was fascinating time in my career. They actually required you to register to read the content. And I was one of the first major media companies that required registration, which was revolutionary at the time. Yeah, everything was sort of open. Yeah. And then obviously, now a lot of media properties charge and you have to register and whatnot. But it was such an incredible sort of 8 years to be there after college in the city, working all the time. But that's the time to do it, right? And now I find myself all these years later doing it again. But I love the marketing business. And I decided many years later, I was having a life change and a family change, and I got divorced. And I had to look at my career. I'd been home for a few years, and I said, well, if I go back to work, I'm going to be working a lot to support these boys. And so my parents were my angel investors. As I mentioned when we were talking before about my dad saying, we'll give you 1 year and see what you can do with it. And then you have to go back to work if you can't sustain yourself. And 12 months later, I was self-sustaining. So my parents were my angel investors, really helped us while we were building the company. And now we are where we are today. But I'm not an intentional entrepreneur. I'm an accidental one. I really didn't want.
Oh, wow. Did you ever pay back those angel investors or give us a profit?
I paid them with 2 grandsons and then ended up moving home a few years later. And I'm like, here, enjoy. And not everybody, right? Like the extended family model of like everybody being together a lot. I valued that so much. I don't think I could have done this without them and that.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, Marla. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is so. I was listening to a podcast and they were saying why well, okay. The model of having the extended family, like you're saying, that there's so many people that don't do it, but the families that really thrive and excel, those are the families that do that. They're much more closer. They have a better support system, and they provide the legacies are carry on a lot longer because then they believe in that family model and that family value, which we're losing because we want to kick out a kid once he's 17. We're like, yo, next year when you graduate, you got to be out of here. When there's families that until you're married, when you get married, you could leave.
Right.
And then even sometimes they'll even the basement, we could turn it into a whole thing for you. And they do that until the money, and then they get another one. And so we are losing that. And I think we've lost it a lot. And just the way how society is set up in terms of, I always say it, if my kids have to be on the bus at 8:45, but I have to be at work at 8, how the heck do you make that happen?
Tell your boss he's listening right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I said, tell your boss why he's listening right now. No, I'm joking.
Oh, yeah.
No, joking.
Yeah, you know.
Go ahead, Amy. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I actually was leaving the boys alone in the house at a much earlier age than is probably typical. And I think that's age dependent.
Yeah.
You know, that I knew they could handle it. I was still driving back to Miami with clients on the East Coast of Florida, because when we started our business, it was very regionalized. And so I was still going back there. And when my parents weren't in town or weren't available, because they are not always here, I could trust them. But then my son later, maybe 3 years later, my younger one, who's now 16, brought this TikTok to me about free range parenting. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So free range parenting is the premise that you give your children age appropriate freedom and allow them to prove themselves that they can handle it. And once they demonstrate that they are able, you give them more age appropriate freedom.
Okay.
And so my son believes that I was maybe it was because they're both out of the house, but that I was a free range parent because I sometimes I don't think I had a choice. I think I had to give them the freedom. And luckily they could handle it and proved it. And then I gave them more, because we do want them to be prepared if they do leave the house for the military, for college. I have a freshman at Auburn right now. And I sort of held my breath when he left last year, and he's doing fine.
Yeah.
So,
No,
we hope we did our jobs.
As you say that, there is no like playbook at how to raise your kids, right? A lot of times we're all figuring this thing out as we go along. We're pulling from our experiences. We're pulling from things that we've seen, our perspectives. We're reading, we're hearing things, right? And it's crazy how, just your perception or your situation just kind of shapes what you do, right? You don't put that limitation on your kids because, all right, this is the situation that we're in. So therefore, this is my expectation, and this is what we're going to do. And that becomes the norm, right, in your family. And that's what they grow up with, and that's what they do. And prime example to that, I was driving the other day and I saw a kid, he had to be at least 4 years old, driving a tractor, cutting the lawn. And I was like, man, my boys need it.
That's amazing.
And this kid was whipping it around. He's probably 5 or 6, but he was whipping that tractor around like it was nothing. But it all goes to show, like, what you show your kids, like you said, give them that room to grow, give them that platform. And just be there to guide them and help them along the way. But there's so much other stuff, man, that came out of what you were talking about that I want you to expound on, go in more detail. I will tell you, the fractional CMO thing was the first thing that clicked in my brain, because I'm a fractional CIO, and very similar model on the technology side, right? But
yes,
as you were I want to talk about your experiences in just going from the transitions from the different areas, and just being that it seemed like you were, just as you shared the story, you were at the cusp of transformation in the different roles that you were in, right? How was it, really kind of embodying just the opportunity for that transformation? And when I ask that, I'm thinking about the environment that you were in, coming in as a woman in some of these entertainment spaces or these different areas, and being one of the forerunners of making sure change happens, embracing different things, bringing on platforms to the new digital age, right? And handling those things before we kind of knew what digital age was, like talk about some of the things that you saw and kind of what shaped you as you were on your trajectory of success and your growth in your career.
Well, I worked in New York in the 90s when there were no rules. So just the environment alone, imagine the pace with so much. We were all glued to CNBC all the time, looking at the NASDAQ, looking at all of these IPOs, wanting to be a part of it, knowing that maybe this was our only time. And that did happen for me because I left the New York Times and went to a pure.com, which was called iVillage. And what's interesting is iVillage was, and I don't know if you remember, it was the first community-oriented website designed for women. And it started with Parent Soup. And then there was the umbrella sort of site that was iVillage, and it was all message board based. So these women and parents would go online and talk about their experiences and share ideas. It was really the forefront of social media in 1996, 97, 98. And that's when I was there. So it was almost frenetic. The pace that we were moving at, the opportunities you were looking for, and maybe that's sort of our established pace now, with the jobless rate and unemployment rate being so low, there's so much movement in the market, right? The great resignation happened in my company too. There were some people who got some great opportunities, but it was really just keeping your eyes open and looking at sort of what's next without getting overwhelmed by it. And that pure sort of internet play, iVillage was a really incredible experience. I met one of my mentors there, Nancy Evans, who was one of Jackie O's editors at the time, and really taught me about grace. And she had this way, people with infectious enthusiasm as leaders. We talked a little bit about sports tonight. Sort of coaches have the ability to do that, right? To create a frenzy and to get people really engaged. And I've tried to do that with my own team, with the excitement that I feel about our business, with clients, right? They're hiring me as a fractional CMO. They better like me. They better trust me. They better value my experience. And then they better listen because that's what they're paying me for, right? Yeah. So I just think just being aware of what's happening and taking advantage of opportunities and trying to see further out in front of you. We're doing that right now with AI and Chat GPT. We just did our first avatar. I used to go on camera for all our clients. I was doing it even until 2 years ago. We had some medical device clients, things like that. They'd say, we want you to be our spokesperson. Will you record these? And I would do the videos. Now we're creating avatars.
Wow.
And they can't, they haven't figured out hands yet with AI. So you'll notice if you see a spokesperson in a video or someone talking about something and you don't see their hands, chances are it's an avatar. And you can actually hit a button and say, okay, raise her eyebrows more, make her,
wow.
Wow. So I feel like I read something in the New York Times over the weekend that we're having a Netscape moment. That when Mark Andreessen invented Netscape, I think 94.
I remember Netscape. Yeah.
Right. And it had all been around. The technology had been around since the 60s, but someone invented something that was widely used and adopted by a lot of people that changed the way people were able to access information on the internet. And I believe that AI and sort of Chat GPT and the way we're using artificial intelligence now is in the same place. So I'm trying to apply the same things I did in the 90s when I was sort of growing and going into all of these different platforms. I'm trying to look at that now just with respect to our market.
Yeah.
That is, you see that, and that's called embracing the change, right? Because even just how you're talking about being a CMO, a lot of things change. It's more rapid. Before, this IPOs in the 90s, right? Think about how to bring yourself to for IPO. That was a lot of work. Then Spackle, or that's what they call it. Yep, that came around, and you have all the different things. Now think how it's not easy, but relatively easy to the 90s. Even you don't run around even on the stock market. You're talking about the NASDAQ. They're running around with papers, and people had to go through papers, and you had to call your broker and say, hey, so it was crazy.
Unreal. Yes.
So now I could be trading right now while I'm doing this podcast. So how do you, from accepting that, what made you so acceptive to what is coming? And then you're just constantly changing. And how do you prepare your team for that when things are changing at such a rapid pace?
If someone is not a lifelong learner, then they won't be successful on our team. And it's one of our 4 values that we talk about. It's what we talk about when we're hiring. I want to know how you learn, what you read, what you watch, how you absorb information, how you've applied that to clients. And that's the only way, because if you're not so open and looking all the time, then you're not going to survive in this market. Our clients are depending on this. When you outsource a service, and Ricky, you know this, if as an outsourced CIO, you have to be the best.
Yeah,
and you have to know things that other people don't. And so we all accept that as a team. And so actually, just before we started recording tonight, I got 2 emails. This is our perspective on AI. I have another paper from a team member who's brand new to us, telling me about data-driven real estate platforms, because we have a pitch at 8:00 tomorrow morning. So I think that you have to absorb and be open and be looking all the time. And I think that's true for most businesses now, because they're disruptive technologies in so many sectors. But isn't that the fun part?
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
That's something that perked my with the data-driven real estate. I'm a real estate guy, and I love that. I hope that pitch goes well.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting because they're now doing vertical segments of big data, looking at senior housing, self-storage housing, college housing.
Yeah.
Right. So there are all these verticals now that you can dive deep into data and get per bed costs in markets. If you want to develop multifamily housing, say in Auburn, Alabama, then you can get all of the data for that. So it's really interesting, sort of, if you're able, even with digital, with us, with digital marketing that we're doing for clients. I mean, there's a company in New York breaking down all the barriers between Google and Facebook and TikTok, and it'll use AI to allocate your budget according to what's performing.
Oh, wow.
So all the walls are starting to come down, right? So if I didn't know about that, then maybe we'd be using something antiquated for some of our clients that have 60 and 80 locations, and I need AI. We do a lot of work in franchise, so we need to use AI. Listen, ChatGPT doesn't make me feel comfortable. AI doesn't feel comfortable, but that's why you got to keep your eyes open and just embrace it and know it's here and not be afraid of it and dig in. So,
you said something very key about not be afraid of it, because if you go back to, and we talk about this all the time, and me and my colleagues, because we are chief information officers, chief technology officers. So AI is very much a topic in what we do and how we integrate it and who's ready for it, who's not, and all those different things. But it always comes down to, movies like iRobot, right? Or movies like, oh my goodness, what's other movie? Terminator. Right, where the picture is painted of the fate of the world is, in jeopardy because technology has grown so much, right? And the technology they're talking about in the movies is like right on us. And AI is that mother that's like machine learning, AI, and then you got robotics and biomechanical engineering and biomedicine that's all fused together, and it's like, wow, this is iRobot right now. Self-driving vehicles, right? All those different things. And you're like, okay, so what you said there, you said embrace. It doesn't make you feel good, but you have to embrace it, because Marlon, myself, Amy, we're not stopping it.
No.
Right? But if we're not part of it, then we definitely would be left so greatly behind in that aspect.
Yeah. And if a client asks us, what's your point of view? How are you using it? How does it impact my business? What should I know? And plus for your own team members. I mean, we run a marketing consulting firm, and they were afraid of it because there were writers on the team who feared that their jobs were going to be eliminated, replaced. And instead we made sure we got out in front of it and said, no, this improves your productivity. And it was interesting. I was on Instagram this morning, and you can buy prompts. That is the future. You can become a prompt writer, and you can sell prompts and ways that you can use ChatGPT and OpenAI to actually get the best out of it. So that's the new forefront, is the prompt writing. How do you use it? And now there are all these overlays you can use. There's like Jasmine, I think it's called, that we use. So, and And I don't want to get caught in a conversation with the CEO and sort of not have that.
Not be ready.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just find that reading it, embracing it, discussing it with our team, talking to our clients about it, and we're sort of all in it. I do get a lot out of the New York Times business section on Sundays. Like they actually had a few months ago, a guy did a chat GPT experiment, and then he had 2 different bots talking to each other and something he didn't understand. And that's the part that makes me uncomfortable. When there are conversations, maybe I'm nosy, but I don't like, computers talking to each other and I don't know what they're saying. I don't
know what's going on.
But the guy from Google, he, I forgot his name. He's the one that resigned and
Eric
said
Schmidt?
that,
no.
He resigned. I hope the name will come to me. And he said he resigned because he didn't want to put Google in a bad spot, but he wanted to say how frightening it is AI can be. And, he wanted to say it again, right?
Was it Jeffrey? No, that wasn't Jeffrey. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. And he wanted to say how frightening it would be. And what you're talking about is the bots talking to each other, making decisions.
Oh yeah.
That's
Jeffrey.
where say it again.
Jeffrey Hinton.
There you go. Jeffrey Hinton. So if you ever want to come on the show and talk about some stuff, we're open, right? Just don't bring your robots. But yeah, just a sense of that. Now, if a show like our show, right, came to you and said, "Hey, we want you to sit down and incorporate some stuff," what would be some of the steps? What's some of the steps so our listeners are hearing that you would take to say what you do to analyze, and how would you provide the products or pick the products that we need in order to get to where we need to be?
Sure. Well, the audits are the most fun, right? So the first place we go and look at a company is their owned media, right? So there's this model called PESO, which stands for paid, earned, shared, and owned. So we look at your owned media. And of that owned media, it's typically website, right? It would be where you are hosting your podcast, if they're on Stitcher or iTunes. I know you're on iTunes. And we would look at sort of what that content is. Once we understand sort of a value proposition and what you own there, we look at target audience and we try to understand if those align, right? Yeah. So we do this April Dunford positioning exercise. She wrote a book called Obviously Awesome. And back in the day, because I've had a lot of days in this business, we actually used to do something. Remember Mad Libs when we were kids? Yeah. Where you get the little pad of paper and there's like a Mad Lib and you fill in, it'll put an adjective here and put a noun, put a verb, and then you put all those words in and you read the story and it's ridiculous. I mean, so that's what positioning used to be like. When you would look at a company, understand, sort of what their position is in the market, you would make a lot of assumptions. And she's really flipped that on its head. So we try to understand, if you didn't exist, who would people listen to? Who are your competitive alternatives, right? What are the key attributes that you have that they don't? Then we place a value on those attributes, right? And then finally, who are the people who care? And what market do you win? So that positioning and that foundational work of looking at your owned media, trying to understand your position in the market, trying to understand your target customer, what your distribution model is. Are you maximizing that? It's really looking at the basics of marketing with price, promotion, positioning, and understand if you're hitting the mark and where the areas of opportunity are. And that's how we'll go and sort of recommend strategy based on that.
What was that book name again? I just want to make sure.
Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. I love her work. She has great videos out there. She works a lot with tech companies out on the West Coast, but I think she's done a really wonderful job giving us a richer experience for our clients to go through that positioning exercise. And I think it's good for any business at any sort of life cycle to really look and say, first of all, have I looked at my website on my mobile device lately and made sure, these really simple, obvious things, that we haven't done. Have we looked at our show landing pages, things like that? For local businesses and companies, even Google listings and reviews, and just really understand what your digital footprint is. And what it looks like and how it's functioning. Test your contact form. And how long does it take someone on your team to get back to a potential client? Right? Is that being monitored? So there are just a lot of really basic things. And then we can get into more complex sort of exercises with brands and refreshes, positioning, core message, tone, all of those things. We actually have worked with one of the largest boat manufacturers under 30 feet in the United States called Carolina Skiff. They're actually out of Waycross, Georgia. We absolutely love this company and the team there. We've been with them for almost 4 years. And they came to us a few years ago and said, we want to become a lifestyle brand. We said, great, give us ones that you like. And they gave us Yeti and Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And so one of the challenges with them is that they were trying to sell too many boats. And when I say that, they were like, look at this LS, look at this boat, look at this model. And it was pictures of boats and selling the boat. But that's not what they're selling. They're selling the experience that you have on the water with your family on a Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yes.
You're selling the exhilaration of fishing.
Can you go back over that again when you said, because our audience, we call them travelers because we believe we're on a journey with them. So our travelers, I want you to go over when you analyze and you said to them, you're selling too many boats. And then go back into that, because sometimes people believe that more is better, right? So can you go through that, break that down? How did you come up with that analysis based off of whatever data you gathered?
Yeah, well, there's something called marketing myopia. And myopia is sort of having tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And founders, especially with a startup, a smaller business, or even CEO of a large established company and brand, they are very passionate oftentimes and close to the product. So they believe that they need to sell and sell and sell and talk about the product and talk about it some more and then sell some more and then show a picture of it and then do a post about it. But you're not selling the product. You're selling the solution, the feeling, the experience, the safety, the comfort, whatever that is. And, my consulting firm, really, when we say our mission is to make CEOs feel safe, which may sound a little odd, but CEOs in 2023 don't really all know how to hold a digital marketing team accountable. They can't afford to hire an 11-person in-house team plus freelancers, agencies, but we'll make you feel safe because when you hire us and you trust us, we'll give you really incredible world-class work at a rate that's less than what you would with an in-house team. So the same thing. So we're selling safety and comfort and assurance, right? So you really, it's just like you're not selling drill bits. You're selling the hole the drill bit makes because that's what the customer wants. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I know people might be blown right now, Rick.
Yeah.
People might be blown right now because they're like, I'm trying to sell you this car, but you're like, no, I'm trying to sell you the drive down to the beach on a Sunday morning in this particular. You understand what I'm saying?
There's nothing like. It's so funny that you bring that up, Marlon, because my significant other's son sells for Audi, and he was saying that what he is selling is the feeling when you're driving off the lot. And the car is perfect and smells good. And you just went through this negotiation and you went and looked at the models and you picked this one and this is yours. And the way the interior looks and feels and the way the steering wheel feels and the independence and the satisfaction and the victory sort of you feel. And so he's selling the feeling you feel when you drive.
I can never go to him because I already want an Audi, and I'm just like, man, I've been talking myself away from it. And I was like,
that maintenance of the Audi, you have that feeling of your pockets burning once. Sorry, I don't want to mess up your singing.
No, but I'm picking mine up tomorrow, and I bought it before I knew him, so I'm picking up mine from maintenance.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I know that some fuel injector thing that needed just a little bit of flush plus 2 tires. Yeah, it's gonna be a spicy bill tomorrow.
Oh man,
you better do that pitch right.
I better pitch my heart out at 8:00 tomorrow morning. That's right. Oh my gosh. But I love that he thinks about this. He's a young guy and he gets it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just are so close to what we do. We have to stop talking about it so much.
Yeah.
Listen, ask what you're trying to solve. Ask what, even in a sales process, ask what they need and read them. It's hard because we're doing so much over Zoom. Like, look at their body language, ask questions, really sort of probe and then design your marketing around that.
But you know what, Amy, what I find is that for some reason, and it could be just the nature of, CEOs and, or some individual. I'm not gonna say CEOs, a lot of CEOs aren't like this, but, when it comes to marketing, everyone feels they can do it. It's like, because they see the result of it, and they're like, or the product of the marketing, and they don't. Oh, I can make a video of someone driving down the road with a beach on the side. Oh yeah, we could do that. Well, I can make a video of this. Oh yeah, I could do that. But they're completely missing the science or just the theory behind of how that content was thought through.
Right.
What was decided through this. It wasn't just because Marlon and I, we found ourselves in many occasions where, we have products that we develop, and we'll have people be like, oh man, we can just make the video. Oh, Rick, you know how to make videos. Go ahead and do the video. I'm just like, dude, it's not just make the video. It's like, what is the messaging going? What is this selling? Like, what are we doing here? Like, how are we going to make sure we speak to that one person that we have made as our avatar, that target audience that we're selling to? How are we going to make them open up their phone and hit buy now, right? Like, what's going to give them that feeling? And it's not I always tell people in teaching classes it's not the features that sell as the value proposition. It's not the features that do. It's the value proposition. What value is this going to bring to my life? And that's sometimes the hardest thing that people see, because they're so tied into, well, it's red, right? It's got to be nice because it's red,
right? And it does all these things, right? It does all these things,
all these lights and everything. It even got AI. It even has AI, right?
Right here in the front.
Yeah, right here in the front.
Well, that's why that positioning is so important, right?
Yeah.
Because then who else they would use, why you're different, what they value, and then you hit on those values based on why you're different, based on what the other people don't have. So it's all that thinking that creates the video of the car going down the beach. And then how do you get people to watch it? I mean, that's why we don't do a lot of work with startups, first of all, because I need them to maybe fail and then do a Series A. So the founder doesn't think he knows it or she knows everything. And also, we need them to sort of have gone along some bumps in the road, and
be vulnerable.
Just because you build it, they will not come. That's not. That's not how that works.
Wow.
And I don't want to have to be the person to tell them. I want them to figure that out first.
Yeah.
And then value the science that goes in and the budgets that are built that actually get the people to come. I mean, we have a client, really interesting company based out of Atlanta. It's some legacy tuxedo brands. So the Al's Formal Wear in Dallas, all through Texas, some locations in Cleveland, Tip Top Tux in the central quarter of the US. And we actually have a lot of lead data. But what do you do with that? Right? And we have the expertise to say, well, we can do streaming, we can do out of home, we can do direct mail, we're going to do custom audiences on Meta platform. This is the frequency with which we need to hit them. This is the acquisition cost. This is all the sort of the metrics that go into this, but it requires a lot of expertise. And then we have to be accountable for how much we paid to acquire each one. That's the part that's challenging, right? Because if you're selling something for $100 and it costs you $99 to get them to buy, it's not a long-term model.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, you're talking our language, because some people don't understand when it comes to marketing. We have I don't know, Rick, we're just going to be transparent. We have a product on the market, and we did the proof of concept. We did the R&D. We did everything. And now to get it out, some people don't understand the portion of the marketing. Why are we spending so much on marketing? We're like, well, we need to go out based off of our analysis and who we talked to and what information we gathered. This is where it says what we need to do in order to get this to X market. Right. And they, for the life of them, sometimes can't understand what we're talking about, because they're just seeing that dollar sign in front of and if I'm only, just like you said, if I'm selling the tuxedo for $100 and I have to spend $99, probably at the interim, you're spending that $99, but over time, it goes less and less and less because your reach is already out and whatever the situation is. So, you're talking our language and help people to understand why those dollars in the marketing sector is so valuable.
Well, if you have a repeat business, first of all, getting customer data, we were saying this last week, which was such an interesting conversation we were having among the team, is that data is more valuable than the products themselves sometimes. So imagine you take a loss on a sale, right? You're renting the tux for $100 and it takes you $99 to get them in the door. But then they're a student that's going to rent for 3 other occasions in the next 3 years. So you own that data to be able to upsell them again.
Yeah.
You also learn about them and that target audience, and maybe you garner reviews. Social proof is important. So those purchase reviews, right? Then you can use data and aggregate and look for lookalike audiences on the back end of a lot of these platforms. So you say, here's my data set. Can you please market to audiences that look like this data set? And of course, taking into account privacy rules, all those things are considered in there in the back ends of these platforms. But the holy grail is, how do you acquire the most customers at the lowest acquisition cost?
Correct.
That's what you're looking for. And you will not know that unless you go find some of them.
Yes.
And then refine that, right? So that's sort of the holy grail that we're looking for, but you're not going to find them unless you try.
Yeah.
And you need to test.
Upfront costs sometimes cost that much, and then you refine it, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
If I'm tracking. Yeah.
Correct. Now I have a target, right? So we bought a cold list for some mail, which, I mean, we hadn't done anything like this in a while. But it's typical rule. If you're buying a list, it's typically 0.5% of conversion, and be prepared for that. We actually, it was a profitable campaign, but now I own the data. Now I have customer data. Now I have repeat customer data. Now I have lookalike audience data. So, someone on my digital team recently said, well, our client needs to accept that not every acquisition is going to be profitable. I said, not the right answer for what I'm going to tell them in this case right now, but it's true. Sometimes you have to be willing to sort of break even on a transaction to figure out where you're going to find more.
Yeah. It's a, all right, travelers, we're giving you guys a semi master class on marketing here. Now, I don't know, you guys were not in ready for it, but I hope you had your pens and papers out and ready to write, or even rewind. Well, you don't rewind anymore, right? Skip back, right?
Swipe your finger. Yeah. A couple times on YouTube.
I like when I pull out the tape. Hey, did someone tape that? And my boys are like, the tape's in the office, Mom. And I'm like, oh, they didn't even get that it was videotaped. So embarrassing. No, I did the other day at dinner too. Like, I'm so unintentionally embarrassing, and I find it joyful. Somebody did something great, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And they said, did you just raise the roof? I said, oh, yeah, I think I did. My elder son goes, just don't ever do it again.
Don't do that again. Don't do that again.
I got it.
Don't do that again.
So bad.
Oh my goodness.
So rewind the tape is another one. The tape's in the office.
I know, right? Talk to us about so you shared a little bit in the beginning about saying, hey, I going back into the workforce, and you had, I'm assuming, right, because you didn't say this directly, you had options to go back to one of your previous roles or companies or something going down that line, but you chose to branch out on your own.
Yes.
Like
accidental
entrepreneur.
Yeah, there were no side hustles going on here in my life, right? I was great in the corporate environment. And I think you can still be entrepreneurial in a corporate environment, and perhaps I don't know, maybe. I'm an idea person, I know that. But what a lot of business owners don't realize is that your zone of genius and what you're great at is actually a small percentage of what you end up doing when you build a company based on that skill in a service based, right? Yeah. You're actually in HR, you're in accounting, right? I was in English and art history double major at Chapel Hill at Carolina, right? So there were no accounting classes happening here. So if I had known
that Michael Jordan was there.
Oh no, I'm a little younger, but not a whole lot.
Come on, man.
I did see that
Come on,
Georgetown
man.
game though.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Air? Have you seen the movie?
Yes. Let me tell you
I saw
something.
that. That's
Let me
amazing.
tell you
I love
something.
that
A lot
movie.
of ideas have been birthed out of Air for Ricky and I, and
Really?
and our sons are involved.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That-
It's fun.
Just say
It's
that
fun.
they're saying we'll never wear nobody else's sneakers already.
Yeah.
So we have some things coming where our sons, they play ball, they have their
Amazing.
Hey, man, don't give too much, man. We talk about that
Yeah.
in the green room on off the record.
yeah,
off the
You gotta
tape.
get it- off the
Off-
tape.
off the tape.
Take it off the
Off the
tape.
tape. off the tape. Yeah. But go ahead. Why did for you? What did Air? Did you saw Air, right? Of course.
Mhm.
What did it do for your? What did it jog? What did it push? What did it help you to solidify or whatever it did for you when you saw that movie?
First of all, my son let me sing all the songs to him while the theater had a lot of people in it, and he not once told me to stop.
Yeah.
So I am not able to raise the roof, but I can sing 80 songs in a theater with no reprimand. So I said it was one of your greatest moments as my child. Thank you for letting me do that. I now it all seems so obvious. Well, of course you make Air Jordan. Of course you pick one person and throw all your eggs in that. But I love the risk of it. I am a sucker for underdog sports movies, but the underdog was Nike.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine
Crazy,
that.
right?
Think about that.
Yes. And so I think that sometimes things are right in front of you and it's not that complicated and you just need to go for it and take some risk and not think so hard about it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it was called Air Nike and then it became
Yeah.
Air Jordan. It wasn't
Yep.
that, it was all right there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating. What did you guys love about it?
I'll tell you. For me,
Besides everything.
I like everything, but one part to me, and it was so funny, is when he was in the room and he said, hey, listen, everybody in this room is not going to be remembered except for you. And the guy that actually made the logo, created the shoes, says, no, but when they're panning out, or when he goes, we're not going to be remembered. And he himself, I had, unless I saw this movie, I would never know about that guy.
No, I know. And
Yeah.
and he even said in it, I was obsessed. And so this notion of obsession has been coming up for us a little bit as a family. First of all, we're in the middle of the Conor McGregor documentary on Netflix right now.
Conor
Mm.
McGregor,
And-
the MMA fighter?
Yes, UFC fighter, MMA
I didn't
guy.
even know he had a document.
I didn't even know. he
Just
had
came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's
All right.
multi-part. Yeah, just came out.
Man, you're
And
like,
so-
we can hang with you. I'm going to tell you, basketball in the green room, soccer in the green room, daggone, we whip a Audi.
I love it. I love competition. I love sports. I love competition. I'm the mother of an athlete who moved away from home after 8th grade to go play soccer for a professional academy 4 hours from here. He's home tonight. He leaves tomorrow morning. So that obsession, right? That Conor McGregor talks about it. MJ had to have it. My son has it. I have it. You know, that I think that's what it takes. And if you had told me when I was starting a business, if you don't get obsessed with this, you probably will not succeed.
Mm.
And I do have work-life balance. I do not work a lot at night. I don't work a lot on weekends, but I very, very focused from 8 to 6 every day. Really no
Yeah.
breaks. I work from home. I'm glued to my chair. I am in it 50 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
But that obsession, I don't know if you're born with it, if something like comes in your brain. I don't know what it is. But
Yeah. Yeah, like I love it, Amy. I mean, we both responded that way ago. We were just talking about this last week, and it was just one of those issues, one of those realizations on our end. It was like everyone doesn't have it, and is a lot of time it's not something that's taught, right? It's not taught,
Mm-mm.
and sometimes you can feel as though you're on an island because it's like, man, it's something. Yeah, I'm not. I don't feel like. Well, you say you work from 8 to 6 every single day working from home. I can promise you, 90% of the people that are working from home are not glued to their chair from 8 to 6 doing work, right? And they will look at you like, what in the world are you doing? Like, go outside.
Because I can't start and stop. There's the awareness. If I go in and out, if I have to run an errand, it's really hard for me to ramp back up in my chair. So I know that it takes that total dedication. And it's interesting what you say about not being able to teach that. We ask ourselves as business leaders, my business partner and I, do they have the capability? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the desire? And if those things don't ring true with someone on your team, ask yourself that. If you have an underperformer, if you feel that someone's not in the right seat on the bus, do they have the capability, the capacity, and the desire? And I find the desire is key. If you're driven, you can't teach driven. But I have to say one more thing about air, and what has stayed with me about that too is that how relaxed in that clip in the Georgetown game. I remember watching that. I was with my dad. My dad walked on to University of Cincinnati's basketball team with Oscar Robertson and rode the pine. He rode the bench for the season, but he was on there. He's like a 6 foot scrappy guard named Norm of all things, right?
Norm.
I mean, you didn't want to mess with Norm. Norm the guard out on the court. But he was just saying, like, they intentionally gave Michael the ball. And how relaxed he was. And I said to my son, you have to find that, because he's in a very high pressure situation on the soccer field, a really competitive, one of his teammates was just called up to the Spanish national team for U17. Europe is now calling their American players back, right? That's how good these kids have gotten. The sport has completely changed. Yes. And I want him to find what Michael had in that moment. It's a clutch shot. He's a freshman. Yes. And they just saw how relaxed he was. So that was a really interesting sort of part. And for me, when I'm pitching tomorrow at 8 a.m., I need to find like my
that relaxed.
I gotta be relaxed.
Michael Jordan talked about it, and also Worthy said, I was the decoy and they all watched me, but Michael was going to take the shot. And when they'd never believed that freshman would take that shot. Yep. And when he had the ball, Michael said, well, I knew I was going to get that shot, because they said, if they gravitate to Worthy, that the option is Michael Jordan take the shot. So, and Kobe Bryant also said, when they said to Kobe Bryant, why is Steph Curry so dangerous? He said, because he's calm.
Yes. He just hits like 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And that calmness is hard to find. My son follows David Goggins. Yeah. And actually, when you told me you were from upstate New York, I was thinking about him, because I think he's from like Syracuse, Rochester area.
That area upstate. Yep.
Yeah. And he just about callousing your mind a little bit. And just when you're finished a workout, you think you're finished, you actually have 60% more, which was sort of phenomenal. So I think we need to use that in business too. Like, you think you've had it, you probably have 60% more, and you just need to just be mindful and let a lot of it go, and not get scared of new technology, not be afraid of selling, and realize that you're actually in HR and accounting, and deal with it.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for your business and your owned property and the things that you're doing. Like, be a great leader. It takes a lot, but I think that you need to get a little obsessed, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Do you find that CEOs that you find that, because who said it? I think they were talking about how some of these companies are failing, and the guy was like, that's because a lot of these guys shouldn't be CEOs.
Well, there are different kinds.
Yeah.
There are visionary CEOs who are fascinating, who have a lot to say and a lot of great ideas. And then there are operational CEOs who maybe lack a little bit of vision, but they're really good at sort of running the operations. And then we have entrepreneurial CEOs we work with, and they are visionaries with a twist. They're hard to pin down. They're genius people. They're going a million miles a minute, but they're brilliant and creators, right? It was funny. My college student said to me last year, Mom, I think that in my career, I won't be happy unless I'm creating. And I had never thought about it that way. But I think we need to ask ourselves, like, are you creating something? What are you creating? And how does that make you feel? And the ideas that we're creating every day and the strategies and all of that, like, it's creation. And I think that it's the best part of business. Yeah. Well, the people part for me is, but that's up there.
Man. So you're people. I
love it.
People person. So that means you probably did, knowing you, I know you probably did a personality test.
Assessment.
Oh, well, the Myers-Briggs, you mean?
Yeah. Myers-Briggs. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
DISC or any of those other ones.
Oh, yep. I'm a D. I'm an ENFP, and we actually use. Yeah, I'm an ENFP, which
I'm an ENTP. I'm an ENTP. So same thing, entrepreneur. But I know I have to pass on my idea to somebody after I do it because the operational. I could operate, but I get bored quickly.
Interesting.
So I have to, once I have the idea birth and it starts running, I need to hand it off, because if I don't, I'll just get bored of it and be like, new one, let's go.
Well, the devil is in the details, right? So we do one called Kolbe. We actually give potential new hires Kolbe, Kolbe. And this assessment predicts someone's instinct for work. So how do they approach a work situation? Are they a fact finder? Are they big on follow through and process? Are they a quick starter, or are they an implementer? And my business partner and I are high quick starters, which means we don't need a lot of information to go.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah.
I mean, I know stuff. Why do I need someone else's? Yeah, let's just go.
Let's go.
But guess what, Marlon? We're not really great at the follow through part.
Yeah.
Right. So then you need fact finders and follow through people who will implement what you need. So there's a lot of that goes on. But I want to know what your instincts are before you start working with us, so I understand the dynamics with the rest of your team members. We actually call them pods. We work on a pod system, single disciplinary pods. So we'll have marketing consultant pods, social media branding, writing pods, and then designer pods. And then they do cross-functional work together, but we group them together by function so that they can innovate, they can exchange ideas, things like that. But they're very tight teams. But I want to know what the composition of that team is so we can help them be highly effective. So I just think we all have access to so much information. Why not get at it?
Yeah.
It's so smart, man. Amy, I want to say this has been, we can keep talking and I'm scared because we can go and touch on so many different topics. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. And quite selfishly to all our listeners out there, be able to talk offline from the podcast, so that we can really dive in deeper. And when you guys come to our conference that we put together, I'm putting that out there, then you'll get a chance to meet some of these individuals that we do bring and learn some behind the scenes stuff. And as we're working on some other things in the back end here to really deliver you guys more content and in-depth content, so you guys can take from these podcasts, apply and apply to wherever you are in life. So, man, Amy, before I forget, and I want to make sure I get this in here for our listeners, can you share where they can find you? Like, where can they find your company? There's a CEO out there listening to this, and they're like, man, I really need to bring in a fractional marketing officer, chief marketing officer. And Amy that's the team, right? I don't need to do a pitch. This is her pitch right here for us. Can you just share where they can find you at?
Sure. So our website is wildcoffeemarketing.com. And then we're on LinkedIn under Wild Coffee Marketing. And the good thing about choosing a distinctive brand name is it makes us easy to find. So if you go to LinkedIn and look for us there, and I'm under Amy Anderson. But the team is publishing some really interesting information and on ChatGPT and AI and marketing strategies. So there's some really great things to read from the thinking that they all do. It's not just me. There are some pretty strong minds behind Wild Coffee, and I'm so grateful that they're on the team. So
love it.
And I'm grateful to you both for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been an honor. This is
not going to be the first or last.
I love
it. I usually say that, but I like. There's so much more that we could have delve into, because off air, Amy, Ricky was late, so Amy and I we're talking about habits, and we were going to dive in, but it'll be a long drawn out thing. We're going to talk about John Morant's and habits that you have before and habits you have to create because of different situations. So we will have you back another time so we could talk on that in retrospect of when they figure out what they're going to do with it.
Yeah. I would love it because I do believe that there are ways that we need to be fit to do our work, and mentally fit, spiritually fit, physically fit.
Yep.
I do.
Man, I love it. With Travelers, we want to thank you guys, and Amy, want to thank you.
Thanks for having me.
For coming onto the show today and just sharing your story. Man, you guys got it. This was a treat. This was a masterclass. Like, guys, this is not something that we just do and go. And Amy go in depth on just strategies and things of that nature. And we just gave it to you all today, guys. And we're very happy to do so. I want to thank Amy for sharing and being willing to share as much as she did today about her journey, where she is now, and then also some tips for you to think about as you're on your journey. But like we said, Travelers, every single week, you can go to our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com, look at all of our previous podcasts and also other information that's out there. Hey, don't forget our scholarship that we offer is something that we have out there for donations all year round, not just for the springtime. So go ahead and set up. You can go through and donate to help support a student going to a community college in the STEM field. So go online, donate, select Success Journey Show where you want your funds to go to. Just a reminder, these funds do not come straight to Marlon and myself. They go straight to our partnering community college and go straight to the accounts for the students that are awarded this program. So we try to make it really seamless for that process. But hey, guys, we'll see you guys again next week at the same time, the same place on a Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
All right, one love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.